Senator Reid, thank you. Stablecoin policy. It's an area where I think there should be, and hopefully there will be, broad bipartisan agreement as well as compromise. Stablecoins are distinct from cryptocurrency in that there is a central entity that issues and is responsible for any individual token. Personally, I believe that we should pursue a lighter touch approach to regulating the innovation taking place with cryptocurrencies and with stablecoins. But I do believe a bipartisan legislative framework that I hope this committee would agree on is both possible for stablecoins and frankly necessary. I'd urge my colleagues to avoid hyper-partisan solutions and instead seek consensus on something that's truly bipartisan that will provide certainty needed for the private industry to grow as well as to prosper. This, I believe, will help provide the best pathway forward for this technology to grow in a way that will benefit Montanans, the American people, as well as the global financial system. Mr. Disparte, can you describe the current regulatory environment facing stablecoin users such as Circle?
Thank you for the question, Senator Daines. And we agree with the spirit of appealing to a nonpartisan approach to how to regulate these innovations inside the United States. Arguably, when I look at the experience of a company like Circle, we are licensed from sea to shining sea under state money transmission regulations and answerable through the examination process to the bank supervisors and the state money transmission supervisors across the country. We've also, as a company, helped contribute to creating a model law to try to make a more uniform operating environment. We're also a registered money transmission company with FinCEN and have worked over the years with law enforcement and other actors on protecting the integrity of the financial system, which is an important pillar. When you think about this innovation outside of the United States, however, and what it means to compete on a global environment, this is where I think the U.S. faces a gap. At the Bank for International Settlements, at the Financial Action Task Force, the Financial Stability Board, state regulators are not represented. It's the federal and national regulators that are. And I think that's where the U.S. potentially faces a competitiveness gap at the moment. But broadly speaking, I think our current regimes for money transmission provide for a degree of sufficiency around the use of an electronic form of payments and a medium of exchange like a stablecoin.
Thank you. You touched on the issue, certainly on the global situation, and that really leads me to the question I have for Ms. Massari. Can you describe how a USD-pegged stablecoin could advance the role of the U.S. dollar from an international viewpoint, and how that might help preserve the dollar status as the world's foremost reserve currency?
Thank you for the question, Senator. To me, this is a very interesting line of thinking about how stablecoins could affect monetary policy. To me, it's not entirely clear that they would be harmful to monetary policy where regulated in the manner that I described in my testimony, backed 100%, at least 100% by bank deposits, U.S. Treasuries. As some of my fellow witnesses have spoke about, these stablecoins can be available for remittance transfers for use outside the United States, just as other dollar-type accounts and payment instruments. And to my mind, just as those instruments help to bolster the standing of the U.S. dollar as a world's reserve currency, the argument should be the same for stablecoins.
So what do you think the future of stablecoin regulation would be if Congress doesn't act in a bipartisan fashion to foster safe and stable growth?
It's a great question, Senator. Thank you. My own view is that it would be useful for Congress to think about a federal charter, an optional federal charter for stablecoin issuers. I think this is a really important aspect of ensuring appropriate regulation at the federal level to achieve all of the policy goals that I think we care about in a nonpartisan and bipartisan way. To my mind, the state regulatory regime that exists today has gone a long way to serve the interests of consumers in different states. I think a federal framework would provide additional clarity if it's available.
Speaking of benefits, perhaps, back to Mint Disparte, what are some of the ways in which stablecoins lower costs within and increase access to financial systems?
Indeed. Thank you for the question, Senator. On the one front, I get back to the question of if to be banked hinges on traditional brick and mortar infrastructure, then many, many people will be unbanked or underbanked. And we saw that happening with the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the inability to move money at scale across the internet was a vulnerability for the country and the world. Stablecoins begin to solve for that by having a trusted medium of exchange that are dollar referenced on the internet itself, and that allows for lower cost transactions. It allows for a whole host of other financial services to blossom where the fundamental trust in the dollar is protected and preserved.
Senator Reid. Oh, Mr. Chairman Brown.
Senator Daines.
All right.
Just voted quickly. The senior senator from Montana is recognized.